And we're live. Welcome to NFL, where the NFL starts and ends. I'm your host, Jacob. I wish there was more news for the Damar Hamlin situation. I also wish that the injury never would have happened in the first place. Now, it saddens me that this 24-year-old second-year player out of Pittsburgh, or any player to be in any position, when you have a player, you know this is the risk. But I don't think Damar Hamlin thought yesterday morning, it's just I'm gonna get hurt, and there's gonna be a definitely a life-changing event, and also could be life-threatening event. I don't think he ever could imagine those things happen. And then at 8:55 Eastern Time, all we know is Hamlin makes a tackle on T. Higgins. Which, could you imagine what T. Higgins is feeling at this point? Hamlin makes the tackle, gets up, starts to fix his helmet like any player would, and then goes limp and falls on his back. And Scott Van Pelt and Ron Clark deserve a whole lot of credit in saying what they were saying, because Ryan Clark was talking about how, and could only refer to his situation that he suffered back in 2008. And Scott Van Pelt was saying that the amount of the quickness that the medical staff ran out and the voluntary staff ran out to check on him was shocking, to say the least, because they ran out with they ran out so quickly that by the time that they just bolted in there, you could tell this was a very serious situation. And they started to administer CPR for a lengthy period of time. And Joe Buck, again, trying to talk into the situation, and e everyone tried. Lisa Salters, everyone was trying everything. They couldn't do anything. They were saying, "Yeah, well, we can't really see, but it's been 9 minutes, and they brought the ambulance out, but they are still, to what we know, is administering CPR." You had Bills players are crying, some Bills players are kneeling, some others are turning away, but have their head over their shoulder. It was just such an different such an life-altering experience, I guess is the best way I can put it. And a lot of people were trying to say, "Well, it's from the COVID vaccine," or, "Well, it's this, well, it's that. The NFL's at fault, da 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 da." Let me explain it to you. It's not the COVID vaccine that was the problem. That's not the problem. What happened was, and this is what we do now, Hamlin had cardiac arrest, which the CPR fixed. He had a heartbeat, he had a pulse, but he wasn't breathing. So he was getting assisted with his breathing and was brought to the University of Cincinnati Medical Center, where he spent the night. They were administering tests. They had a breathing tube down his throat so he could breathe, but it was a very scary situation. In that time, a lot of people were just trying to figure out, what can we do to help? What can we do to help? Well, it happened that Damar Hamlin started a charity, if I remember, it's called Chasing for M's, if I remember correctly. Let me make sure. Yes, it's called Chasing M's, which originally was bought to have two and a half two $2,500 for toys. That started about a couple weeks ago. And according to what I'm reading right now on Twitter, there's a new donation every point 0.3 seconds, which is amazing, including at I want to say about 12 of last night. Scott Van Pelt showed that the charity that Damar Hamlin is associated with surpassed 1 million donations, and a couple of minutes ago surpassed 4 million in donations, which is amazing. And it was all about helping his community. The crazy whole part of this was everyone's trying to blame the NFL, and yes, you can blame how it was done. This was unprecedented. There was no rules. So you wonder why it took an hour or so. It took that long because there is no rules to a situation like this. Now there probably will be, but there is no, like, where do we go? So they had to talk to the NFL Players Association, the NFL and Roger Goodell, the coaches and the players, which I'm happy. And if no one thought of this, I think everyone deserves a round of applause for this, for Sean McDermott and Zach Taylor for going and saying, I'm standing by my players. My players say we don't want to play. We're not going to play. Like, there was a rumor going around, it was even said on the ESPN broadcast, which Troy Vincent later said it was not true, that they were going to force the teams to practice for 5 minutes, get back warmed up, and then we were going to continue playing this game. That obviously did not happen, as the game was suspended, and they just decided, nope, we're not doing it. I think that happened because the players were like, no. And the coaches were like, they're so out of it mentality wise that if we play, this game is not going to be a good game. If we play, which I don't blame them, by the way. I absolutely do not blame them. I think that was the right call. Do I blame the NFL? No. I didn't like how long it took, but you can understand, like, if it would be like this. You get behind the wheel of a car and you're driving, but they don't have brakes. Let's just say your car doesn't have a brake, or no one uses their brake, and all of a sudden there's a car pileup. How could we prevent this? You put a brake in your car. But if there's no way to describe that and no way to discuss that, it's hard enough it's easier to say it, but there's no rule to say how to get it done. But props to Susie Colder, who everyone else Schefter was out of it. Booger McFarland was out of it. They said, and Booger McFarland said a great thing. We play a game, but this is life or death. When a guy can't breathe, it becomes life or death. Football becomes secondary or further down the totem pole. And the scariest thing was Damar Hamlin's mother made the trip. She made the trip to watch her son play against the Bengals. And when the injury happened, she went in the ambulance with him and stayed at the hospital. Stefon Diggs independently went, I would assume via Uber, went to the hospital in Cincinnati where Hamlin was brought and actually got in. He made sure he was going to get in because it meant so much to him. And you can say whatever you want, about how the Bills handled it or the Bengals handled it. I think that was the only way they could handle it, and it was props to everyone that said, "You know what? The NFL had to do that." And everyone keeps trying to say, "Well, the NFL should have had rules," and maybe they should have. They definitely probably should have. But it's like easily saying everything. It's like every building having a fire escape. They weren't designed to have a fire escape in the beginning. Some fires happened and they realized we need a fire escape. Or we need another way out of the building. That's what happened in this situation. No one knew what was going to happen. Now, hopefully, they will have rules to the situation. But now I'm going to go to Skip Bayless because, and I don't like this guy. No one likes this guy, but I think it became well renowned yesterday, or last night, I should say. Skip Bayless put out a tweet that said, "This game is probably going to get postponed, but how? This game is too crucial. It has to be played. It has to be played. It has to be played tonight." I don't understand why they won't do that. And I think everyone just went and like, excuse me, here's a 24-year-old guy on the ground, and he's been on the ground for almost 10 minutes. Put into an ambulance, driven to a hospital after a routine hit because no one knew what was happening. We didn't know anything. And that was a scary situation to be in. So when Skip Bayless went and said that, and said those things, it hurt people. It made people feel some sort of way. It made it a point that after he apologized via Twitter, but the damage was already done. We live in the age of you make a tweet of 10 years ago, it gets resurfaced. Now you're that person for the last 10 years, even though you might not have been, or you might have just had a bad day 10 years ago. But that's what happened. And when you see that every day, everyone's going to come to the same realization that that's who you are. Well, Undisputed went on air a couple hours ago, and Shannon Sharpe was not present. Now, maybe this happened because of the Damar Hamlin situation. Maybe it was because something else happened. I don't know. But what I can tell you is this: he was not there. Skip Bayless was. Now, I bring this up to you because this is not Skip Bayless's first time doing these things, where he's been not. I don't want to call it brash because it's not brash. But I can give you three scenarios. We talked about the Tom Landry and how Skip Bayless made fun of Tom Landry's religion. About 20 years ago, Skip Bayless made fun of Troy Aikman, saying Troy Aikman was gay. Troy Aikman married Tom. He's married. He was married at this time. Yeah, he was saying Troy Aikman was gay. Basically giving off gay vibes, which Troy Aikman denied repeatedly. He then made fun of Dak Prescott for an incident that happened when he was in college. A lot of things happen when you're 21, 22 years old. He made fun of Dak Prescott when he announced that his brother had passed away, that his brother had killed himself, and that his mother had passed away a few years prior to that. It was a big emotional thing, and Dak was saying how he struggled with mental health issues at this moment, and he was struggling, to which Skip Bayless said, "He's weak. He's weak. He shouldn't say those things." That was bad. When we was talking about the Damar Hamlin situation, I think everyone felt the same way, that this guy is an idiot. He just wants to get his name out there. He's not focused on what is actually happening in front of him. Because when I saw the hit on T. Higgins from Damar Hamlin, it's a simple play. And he gets up, fixes his helmet, and falls back, and it's limp. It was scary. And I was like, this can't happen to this young man. And I still feel that way. There is a statement from the Hamlin family that was thanking everyone for their prayers and donations to his charity, and also we're asking for those prayers to continue, as well as we should continue to pray for him. But I am pleading with you that you donate to Damar Hamlin's foundation and charity, because it takes a serious injury like we've gone through in the last 24 hours, or 12, 24 hours, that make you realize of how just fragile life is.